welcome to We Have Spoken, the official podcast of Star Wars, a custom 112 Galaxy Facebook group. If you ever wanted to get into customizing 112 scale Star Wars action figures and dioramas, visit 112galaxy.com. As always, my name is Corey Fry, and today I'm joined by some of Mos Eisley's finest scum and villainy. Coming to us all the way from Chalem's Cantina, he's the man with more death sentence than Dr. Evazan. It's Matty D.
Hello, my friends.
Also joining us, it's the man who claims to have made the Kessler run in less than 12 parsecs. It's Ryan Crary.
How's it going, everybody?
And last but not least, give a big Twin Sons welcome to the boss man of the Outer Rim Traders, L.E. Spry.
Hello, Star Wars fans.
Alright, so today we're going to discuss Season 2, Episode 3 of The Mandalorian. And despite its shorter runtime, this episode was quite a bit different and heaps more exciting than the previous one. Let's start us off, Matty. What are your overall opinions of this week's episode?
I can't tell you how much I loved it enough. It was just fantastic. I mean, start to finish, sitting on pins and needles, edge of the couch. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic episode.
Yeah, I agree. I loved this episode. It was super short compared to the other ones, but they packed a lot in there, and it was just a fun ride to watch.
Yes, indeed. It was a great episode, an extreme change, as you said, from the previous episode. This was the action-packed adventure we hope the previous episode was setting us up for.
Yeah, and it definitely did that. We got to see, my opinion, the true main event of the show, the reunion of Frog Lady and Frogman, and that took it for me. That was took the cake. But yeah, this, in all seriousness, this episode was solid. I was really happy to see some Mandalorians kick some ass together. And you know what? There were aliens aplenty in this. Quarren and Mon Calamari everywhere to be seen. I don't think we've ever seen that many Quarren and Mon Calamari in live action, at least, together in one place. So that was really, really cool. Let's talk a little bit about Mando's arrival on the planet. We see him. We open up. He's in space. He's floating through. The Razor Crest is beat to hell. What did you guys think of his landing there? Was it as graceful as you'd expected?
I just wanted to take a quick hop back and just say I love the frog people. They made me so happy. They just look happy, and they made me happy. I agree with you, Corey. They were awesome. They're, for me, one of the highlights of the episode, believe it or not. I loved them. So, anyway, hopping back forward, I love the crash landing. I love that they dip off to the side. It reminded me of Revenge of the Sith, obviously. And this episode, like every other one we've seen, has just paying homage to all of our favorites from all of our favorite films. Just loved it. I loved that he got dunked. It just made me laugh, and just another great part of the ride.
It was a crazy entry into that planet. But let me say, Lil Yeet waking up when they arrived, probably the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
But no, it was great. Not graceful, but I love the way they did it.
Yeah, as Ryan said, that was a really wild intro. Thought, just like Matty said, that, throwback to Revenge of the Sith when Anakin's trying to pilot Grievous's ship back to the ground. It was, you got the feeling of that moment. We got to hear the same sound that they used for the hyperdrive failure for the Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
When he was coming down. So I thought that was
similar alarm as well.
Yeah, Corey and I were talking earlier in our group chat, and Corey mentioned how great the music was for this episode. That's something else. This was really rich to the ears for me. I loved hearing all these familiar sounds. And last but not least, it was a crazy landing, but we got to see an AT-AT built into a crane.
Yeah, that Imperial Walker turned into a crane was so cool. Like, I remember I was watching it live, and it was in the chat, and I was like, oh, man, that reminds me of something from Empire Toy Works. It looked so cool.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, as customizers, we got introduced to a brand new planet, and that's the planet of Trask. And I already said there's a ton of aliens there. Diving in as customizers, what are some things you guys would like to see from this planet, maybe brought to life in 1/12 scale?
Obviously, I mean, you could. I don't know if they would end up doing it, they being Hasbro, but I would love to see more aliens, stock aliens made, or maybe build-up packs where you can change accessories or do something like that, or a 2-pack or whatever for the Quarren, for the Mon Calamari. I mean, gosh, it's pretty obvious, I think. Am I jumping too far ahead and saying we're clearly going to get a Bo-Katan figure? Obviously, that's been rumored and now confirmed that we've seen her on TV.
Shout out to Yak Face.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, there's just an endless supply of things that we could make and that they could provide. But what else? What does everyone else think?
I definitely think we're going to get a couple of Quarren and Mon Calamari customs going on. There's so many different looks on that pier. You can't go wrong with how you make them. I'm sure people are going to keep making Bo-Katan customs, even though we're most likely going to get her. I think what would be kind of cool to see, that little cantina food area that they were in, I'd like to see someone make a diorama of that. Or maybe even the ship when they were sailing.
Water vessel, very rare to see in live action in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Someone should make Frog Lady's house.
Oh, yeah.
I'm down with anything Frog Lady related, or Frog Man, or Frog People, or Frog whatever you are. Frogs.
Tadpoles.
Yeah, tadpoles. We saw a tadpole in this episode. How about you, Ellie? What would you like to see made from this planet of Trask?
Well, I, for one, am waiting to see a Mon Calamari wearing a blue knit sweater.
Yes. Nice fisherman sweater.
Yes. Quarren, Mon Calamari. I really was digging the Quarren. One thing I noticed, I wonder if anybody else did, they don't have the normal Quarren hands like Tesk has, where they're circular. They gave them the Ishtib hands.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't notice
Yes.
that.
And I don't know if anyone used to watch Face Off, but I've followed Frank Ippolito. That was on Face Off years ago. He now has a company called Thingery, and he's making all these masks for the Mandalorian.
That's awesome.
So I've kind of been watching some of those builds. Well, not like I'm watching them as in he can publicize, but he's talked about different things without pictures. Yeah, Quarren, Mon Calamari, definitely Bo-Katan. Even though there's a figure coming, I'm sure people are still going to be picking up the John Walker Customs kit. Watto Scrapyard has a kit.
What about Outer Rim Traders? What about Outer Rim Traders, Ellie?
Yeah, I'm sizing the Bo-Katan kit, just having a little trouble because the parts are thin. And we've got 3 different style Quarren heads. So there's a lot of aliens. I'm into aliens, so we put out a lot of aliens. So yeah, I'm gonna have some Ishtib hands coming to go with the 3 Quarren head sculpts.
Sweet.
And the normal hands.
And Ishitib, which deep down is one of my favorite Star Wars alien species because they're just ridiculous looking. On the topic of your Bo-Katan kit that's coming up, for anybody who's interested in that, is that something you're scaling to, say, a specific figure like Sabine Wren or a Leia body, or have you gotten that far?
I'm scaling it, Sabine.
All right, so anybody who's looking forward to that kit, get an extra Sabine Wren, and then you'll be set. That's cool. All right, let's move a little forward here in our story. We saw all these awesome Mon Calamari. We saw all these awesome Quarren. But then these Quarren do something absolutely unforgivable, and that is knock Baby Yoda into the mouth of a Mammacore. What was your reaction, Matty? I know mine was expletive-filled. How about you?
I threw a couple things at the TV. Luckily, they were Nerf-oriented, so nothing broke, but I was damn pissed. I did not appreciate that at all. At all.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. Really makes you mad when you see such a precious creature get tossed into a Mammacore's mouth. Even my wife kind of threw a fit about it. So that tells you something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone was a little upset with that moment. At least he was able to close that pram up to protect him. But, yeah, that was like a, oh, no moment, you know.
That's like, I think it's maybe Baby Yoda's 3rd pram or second, at least 2nd pram he's damaged. So I guess that's why he's got the bag now, the little side satchel.
To throw something out there, though, because even though it was disturbing as a Yeet fan, I do like that we're really starting to see the glorious underbelly of Star Wars where questionable things happen. Yeah. And I think that's part of a larger explorative narrative that we're sort of getting, right? Where with this show, there's a straight line for, we know what sort of underpins the quest, but we have these other things that are weaving in and out of that main line. And I love it. I love seeing stuff like this. It's fantastic.
Well, let me ask you about this, because Mando, he's trustworthy of Frogman. He was trustworthy. Is he overly trustworthy of all these people considering what his quest is? Like, he leaves Baby Yoda in multiple places. What are you guys thinking about this? I'm starting to question some of his his judgment here.
Well, it came as a referral, right? So in theory, he should have a little bit of confidence, right? Because the Frogman pointed to
True.
the wrong calamari, who pointed to the corn. So if we're playing, telephone, it's not that many degrees removed. But clearly, I would not have walked up to the plank there, so to speak, and looked out over the ledge and be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" No. But yeah, I guess in a way it's kind of not levity, maybe relief of some sort, like comic relief, where you're just like, "Oh, come on, dude! Like, really?"
Yeah, I feel you big time. So after the Mammacore, actually during the Mammacore, we see some Mandalorians show up. One of which is Bo-Katan. How quickly did you guys recognize that face paint when she showed, or helmet paint when she showed up? I know we were all expecting her, but it was pretty cool to see a character come from animation into live action, and not only that, but also her animated voice character, who is also a live action actor, and Katie Sackhoff played that character. I don't know about you guys, but I was just super pumped. And I'm not even that big of a Bo-Katan fan, but just to see that happen, I was like, it opens up the possibilities for so much else coming from that source material and being brought into live action. What did you guys think of Bo-Katan and her Mandalorian cohorts, and how they reacted to Mandalorian on their meeting?
I thought it was awesome. I recognized her right away from the Night Owls, and it was great to see her. The actress, Katie, sorry, I forget her last name, but
Katie Sackhoff.
That gal is literally like a dead ringer for the animated version. So perfect casting, and of course she did the voice. I loved it. And Corey, you are spot on. This opens up so many possibilities for subplots, for side stories, for other series that could come down the pike. But to get to see these guys in action was awesome. I felt like their fighting style was a little bit more advanced than even the Mandalorian, because in this episode he was lagging behind them because they were knocking down all the pins, where usually he's the guy that's sort of spearheading the charge. So I thought that was a refreshing change as well. I thought it was great. It was awesome. What an awesome inclusion.
I loved it. I instantly knew that it was Bo-Katan. I'm not a huge Bo-Katan fan, but I am a big Katie Sackhoff fan. She did amazing work bringing Bo-Katan to life. Loved her as the voice of Bo-Katan back in the animation, but she really brought it all together being the live action. And everybody else, like Matty said, I love that their fighting skills are a step above and beyond what the Mandalorian is. Really shows that they've been fighting in a different way for a longer time. It was just cool to see more Mandalorians.
As a big Clone Wars fan, I too recognized her instantly. I love the way they did it. It was like you got the view of what the Mandalorian saw. He was in the water. He looks up through that grate, and you see her helmet. And I'm like, oh, yes. So I was super pumped. Let's see. The other thing was the reaction they had. It was good to see the two styles of Mandalorian, or two thought paths. Where they said was, what was it, a child of the
Watch, yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. The child of the Watch, and they weren't as hardcore as he was. They weren't afraid to take their helmet off, and
he was a cultist.
Yeah, there was a big reveal there. Yeah, as the Mando's been. He was picked up by the Death Watch. We saw that as an orphan. We saw that in season 1. And we were all wondering what's up with these Mandos that aren't removing their helmets, because anytime we've ever seen Mandos in Star Wars canon, whether it's in Rebels or Clone Wars, they're popping their helmets off like it's nothing. So I guess we finally got an answer as to what that is, and now I guess we got a little bit of conflict in Mando. He wasn't very receptive to their ways. Obviously, he has his way, the way of the Mandalore, but regardless, he still worked with them. What did you guys think of this conflict we got with Mando here, with this reveal of his cult following, or I guess not his cult following, him being a cultist versus the Mandalorians we've seen in canon?
I love it. I think it's great, and I think it points to a larger a larger theme that we've seen explored with some of the other films. I remember it in Phantom Menace. You see it in Revenge of the Sith. You see it in Rogue One, and that is, not everything is black and white. There's a lot of gray in the Star Wars universe, and I think that's what this sort of represents. And again, this gets back to, I think we talked about this last week or the week before, but again, this is existential here, right? this guy's met a bunch of people who are almost more legit than he is, right? They're more badass fighters. They fought during the Purge, and they're outclassing him in many ways, and he's looking at them and causes him to have to look at himself. I think it's great. I think it's great for self-exploration, for story development. Love every part of it.
I agree. I think it's a great character arc for him to actually interact with Mandalore-born Mandalorians, because clearly it's a different culture, and going from the cultist side to seeing how regular Mandalorians are, it's really opening his mind. And I think by the end of the episode, he kind of accepted that his way is not the only way.
Yes, exactly. You guys have both pretty much nailed all of that. It's fun to see where the different paths the two sides are on. We just learn more about the lore of the Mandalorians, and really enjoyed that.
All right, so moving on, we find out that their plan is to go after an Imperial, I guess it's not a blockade runner, but an Imperial stock ship. It's filled with all kinds of weapons and blasters and all sorts of things. So they storm that, and we meet some Imperial officers that, I'm going to nitpick here, they didn't have a British accent, and it bothered me. But that's nitpicking. But earlier we were talking about Mando being outclassed by these fighters, but when push comes to shove, Mando does, yet again, one of the most heroic things in Star Wars, and puts his life on the line, Batman style. Guys, your thoughts on Mando yet again, willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good?
He's the protagonist and hero that we all admire for many reasons, and I loved it. I mean, I just love this episode. I love what they're doing with his story development, everything about it. It's just great. I was really happy to see.
Now, Ryan, Ryan has been shot in before 4 times while wearing body armor, so he has some insight that we don't have. Ryan, weigh in on how that feels.
It's awful.
Right.
I was telling Corey, the biggest thing is the Mando takes a huge amount of hits from all those heavy blasters and regular blasters in that hallway. And if there's any kind of ballistics carryover to the energy output, you see guys get hit with body armor all the time, and they have broken ribs, major bruising, and all kinds of stuff. And he just kind of took it like a tank.
Exactly.
That's it. I mean, he's a badass.
He certainly is. I really enjoyed some Imperials being shown in this episode. It was fun watching the Mandalorians come together and take out all the stormtroopers. That was super cool and exciting. I was right there with you, Corey, when the Imperial officer started speaking, and there was no accent, like you say. It's more of an observation. It's not a complaint from me, really, but it was really my first observation that, no accent.
Yeah, I guess they don't have to all be those over-the-top British accents rolling their R's like Grand Moff Tarkin, but it helps. It helps sell how, I guess, we've been brought up through Hollywood that bad guys in American cinema occasionally have British accents. And in Star Wars, they relied heavily on that, big time. Starting at the top with Grand Moff Tarkin and working the way down. So there were 2 officers here, neither had the accent, but I guess they both went out with a bang. So I'll forgive him for that. What I really liked.
Wait,
go ahead.
I have a question. I have a question for you guys.
Sure.
Because it was an interesting observation that until you mentioned it, I hadn't thought about it, because the actor who played the captain, I don't think he had a name, right? He had a very Imperial look.
Oh, totally.
But he didn't have. Now that I think about it, yeah, he didn't have the accent. Does that bother you guys with Moff Gideon that he doesn't have a accent either?
I'll start us off. Moff Gideon, I think the way that he speaks is so elegant that he comes across as super pompous and full of himself that you don't even need it. It's there without being there, if it makes sense.
Okay, yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I feel, is just the way he talks without the accent. It just steps him up as a higher tier person to me.
It's almost like an underlying dignity or something.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how it was for me too.
Yeah, nailed it.
I was just curious if the same logic applied, but I totally get it and I agree. So
I guess the thing is, it didn't stand out in my head when we first saw him. It didn't stick out, whereas this time it kind of almost did.
And to give props to the pilot, he had an English accent, so that was at least we got one. Something I was going to touch on is something that our good buddy Jay Haywood always talks about. There's nothing more recognizable in Star Wars, possibly or arguably, than a stormtrooper. So to see stormtroopers back in Mando, regardless of if the Empire is fallen or not, that was really, really cool for me. I was waiting for them. And obviously I wanted some Moff Gideon too. We got a little bit of a little story there. I mean, now we know that Bo-Katan and her Mandos are going after the Darksaber. I don't know. I was super excited when I forget the exact dialogue, but when Bo-Katan has that captain by the neck and she says, "Does he have the Darksaber?" And she goes, and he says something to the like of, "If you already knew, then you wouldn't ask," or something like that. That was really, really cool. This entire, I guess, sequence with the Imperials was awesome. I loved the radio chatter when the Mandos are just going apeshit on everybody, and you just hear like, "Oh, they're overtaking us. They're Mandalorian," and then that just cuts out. That was so cool. It was such a nice touch. It reminded me a lot of the Vader Hall scene from Rogue One. You could just picture what was going on without actually having to see it. That was beautiful. And the music, again, Ludwig Göransson's music in this entire sequence was top notch. Anything else you guys want to add on that whole breakdown?
I love seeing stormtroopers come back, and they're clean this time. It's pretty nice to see the Empire still have a presence, even though it's technically fallen.
All right, so the big reveal here is something we all knew was coming in this season, and something we all, I guess, were anticipating. But it was still cool to actually hear someone speak it in live action, and that is the name Ahsoka Tano. After Mando completed his, I guess, secondary quest on his quest to return Mando to the Jedi, he now is going to be pointed in the direction of Ahsoka Tano on the planet Corvus. Guys, Dave Filoni directs Episode 5. Coming up, we've got Episode 4. So what do you think we've got going on here with Ahsoka in these next 2 episodes? If you just had to guess.
Oh, if I had to guess,
just a shot in the dark. I know, just throwing it out there. Let's say you've seen these episodes thus far. Where do you think it's going to take us? Which is very difficult to guess when it comes to Mando. So don't worry about
it. Well, I think before anything else, I would guess that he's got to get his ship fixed because he can't really haul around the galaxy in that big old fish bucket that he's rolling now. Thanks with all the netting and stuff.
Damn, calamari.
Yeah, I mean, but I would imagine that the next quest takes him to Corvus to meet and find Ahsoka, and I think what's going to be interesting to see here is what relationship Ahsoka has with any of the remaining Jedi, which at this point would be Luke Skywalker, and has he started the Academy at this point? It's 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so I'm wondering, does he leave the child and go on these other quests? And having fulfilled that, I think there's a lot of... I wouldn't even want to prognosticate. Now that I'm starting to talk, I'm going to stop right here and say I have no clue, but I'm pretty sure that Ahsoka is next in the window. I mean, he's got to go meet her, and then the question is what happens with the child? Because once you figure out the fate of the child, then you can start to create another trajectory for Mando, depending on what happens there.
I don't think we're going to see Ahsoka in Episode 4. I think it's going to be held off until Episode 5, simply because I feel like Dave Filoni just wanted to be the one to introduce her.
Yep.
And he should be. He really should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, with lack of a better term, I think the next episode is going to be kind of a filler episode again, and we're not going to get any major reveal or anything other than maybe we find out exactly how he's going to meet up with Ahsoka, but I don't think we're going to see her.
I agree. The next episode is, be a setup episode. As Matty said, he's got to get his ship fixed. He's got to hire a new interior decorator and get rid of that nautical theme in there. It's and it'll be just a stair step to the next episode. They'll probably have to they'll stop on some planet that's not too far away, is what I would think, and get that ship repaired.
I wonder if that nautical theme is going to be the next HasLab tier to unlock.
Yeah, I mean,
That's an easy build. Hey, I just thought about something when Ellie was talking. I honestly think that this could be an easy way, and I think Ryan's right. I wouldn't expect that he's going to go find Ahsoka in the next episode. I think he starts the quest to get to the planet, but this could be an easy reintroduction for Grief Karga and Cara Dune because he knows them on Navarro. Maybe he can get his ship fixed there.
Not a
Yeah, absolutely.
good
I don't
thought.
know the trajectory of where he needs to go, and I don't know if that's along the path. But he's in good standing with them, so that could be an easy way to bring them back into the fold for the rest of the season.
Matty, isn't it a little bit irritating that they haven't given us a map so that we could track where he's going?
Yes.
So the answer to that question, number one, is yes, and I'm going to add on. I'm going to piggyback on that and say, and maybe I'm just lazy, but I liked in Rogue One how when
Let's go with this.
we change the scene and you know what planet you're going to.
Yeah.
I wish they would do that for all of these episodes and for all of these shows because it only helps to want to understand more about what you're looking at and understand where you're going. So yeah, I agree with you on what you're saying. I wish they would do this. I wish.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm one of those like nerds that will just go and find out a new planet and then go on Wikipedia and then go on all these like Star Wars explained videos and find out every single detail about every single bit of the planet. So yeah, I'm all down with that. As far as Ahsoka Tano is concerned, I feel like Mandalorian himself right now doesn't understand what the difference is between a Jedi and what Baby Yoda is. He doesn't know if that's a species or if that's a group of people or if that's one and the same. And I kind of like that there's still a mystique about the Force there, even though he just met Bo-Katan, who could have just unloaded on him and be like, here's everything I've seen with the Jedi, and blah, blah, blah. She didn't. So he's still kind of clueless. So I feel like if he meets Ahsoka, I don't know why she wouldn't take Baby Yoda. And for me, that's why I don't think we're going to see Ahsoka in the flesh, if I had to guess. I think maybe what he wants to find is not going to be that easy. Maybe it's going to be holocrons and things like that, and that's our intro to Ahsoka, because I almost feel like if she was in there in live action, then it's just going to be an easy cop-out, and he'll learn way too much about the Force too quickly. I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm worried about going forward. Obviously, in Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, I trust wholeheartedly, but still, I'm kind of skeptical, about her involvement in the series and how much she'll be involved and how important she'll be.
I'm not worried too much about Ahsoka or any other side character, overshadowing what's happening here, because I still think they've done a pretty good job of keeping us centered and remembering what we're sort of doing at the core of it. But I do like that they're bringing in these other elements because now they're setting up other things that can develop from this. But I'm not really too worried. I think the producers of the show, the writers, they've done a really good job so far of parsing out things that we need to see sparingly enough that you want more and it's not enough, which is a hard balance to find. And I think they'll do that with the rest of these characters too. Like, I'm still wondering when's Boba Fett going to come back, or is he going to come back? I mean, is it something that we're going to see? I mean, there's things that they've sort of wetted my beak, so to speak, and I want to see where they go. So I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I'm not too worried either. I think, and we've talked about it before, I think we talked about it in the first episode. I think they're doing pretty well with giving us these established characters, but not making them shadow the Mandalorian, because the show is the Mandalorian. I mean, the biggest shadow he has is Lil Yeet, and they kind of use him in the right way this season compared to last season where he was all the time. But no, I'm not too worried about it. Like Matty said, I do want to see more, especially with Boba Fett. I want to see what happens with Ahsoka, but I don't think they're going to play a big role in overtaking the show.
Yeah, so far I love what they're doing. As Matty said, they kind of leave you wanting more in most cases. And I like the way they're bringing in elements from the original trilogy. They're bringing in elements from the Clone Wars and not overdoing it. So far, they've made me extremely happy.
Something I would like to see, now that we're talking about Boba Fett, is we've got Moff Gideon with the Darksaber. We've got Bo-Katan and her crew trying to chase down that Darksaber. Mando's kind of twist up in the mix. And then over here, we kind of got Boba Fett. And if, fans of the EU will know, Boba Fett became Mandalorian, eventually led the Mandalorians through the Yuzong Vong War. Could Boba get, throw a wrench into Bo-Katan's plan there and become an even bigger villain than he possibly is right now? That'd be really cool to see if they could set that up and somehow pull that off. Just throwing out possibilities that I would like to see at some point. Anything with Boba Fett's cool with me. All right, closing thoughts, guys. Anything else we didn't touch on you'd like to get out there about this episode?
I loved it. I'm a big fan of what they've done and what they're doing. And I like the side stories, and I hope that they continue to sort of take us along this really rich journey, and I'm really happy with everything. I hope everyone enjoys it as well.
Yeah, I agree. My only gripe is I wish this episode was longer. Everything else I loved
agree.
about it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I do kind of want to make sure that Mando gets some pest control in his ship, because that little tentacle thing was kind of unpleasant. Was that a baby mama core or what?
It was a snack for little Yeet, because as Ryan
That's
says,
true.
little Yeet gotta eat.
Yep.
True.
I assumed it was a baby monocore.
How about that facehugger soup he had there?
That's what I was getting ready to hit. One thing that I forgot about was,
Good old chowder.
Yeah.
reference.
Which is really cool. I like how they had it set up over the table where they just kind of squirted it out all disgusting out of that big pipe.
Very homage to Alien right there. Same with the last week's episode where
Yep.
he's in that spider farm or whatever that thing was.
Yeah.
All those little nodules. And then, he gets the little creature jumps on his face. That was full on Alien-esque. And then how about the mask? When they're looking in the mask, wasn't that kind of like Predator?
Oh, yeah. The thermal scope. Yeah.
Yeah, the infrared with all the colors. I mean, that was very like Predator-like too, right?
Predator, yeah.
Which, shout out to Predator, one of the best movies ever made. I'll fight somebody if they disagree with that. I love it.
Absolutely.
Ellie said something, and I just want to say one more thing, and then I'll pipe down. But I think what they're really doing so well here is that they're giving us stuff that everyone knows and loves, and it's like in touch points. So it's just enough that you feel really good about it, and then you move on with something else. And I think it keeps you engaged because there's that element of surprise, which is sort of like the better way of subverting expectations. I mean, this is sort of what you would expect, where you get something that you don't necessarily expect, but a constructive way to the story. And that's what we're seeing here. And the other thing is that you don't have to be a super hardcore fan of all these things to appreciate what they're doing, because each episode sort of tells its own story, and it's developed enough that you can follow along and it can pique your interest. So I just think they're doing an excellent job overall.
Very well stated. Matty D dropping knowledge bombs right now. Let me pose one more question for you guys, a closing question. So in this episode, we saw Planet of Trask, and we saw a bunch of corn, and we saw a bunch of Mon Calamari. Let's say in the future we go to some other planet. What is the one alien species you would like to see a lot of, like we did in this episode with the corn and Mon Calamari? Matty, your choice.
Oh man, it's probably really contrived to say, but Rhodians.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be killer.
Planet of Rhodians? I mean, you know how I feel about Greedo, so yeah, I would love to see a planet full of Rhodians for sure.
Yeah, that excites me just thinking about it.
Or Duros.
Yep, Duros is another. Those are two very easy costumes for them to do, like the corn and the Mon Calamari too. Ryan, what's your choice of alien species you'd like to see plentifully used in an episode of Mando in the future?
I would like to see Duros, but maybe, I don't know, some Zabrak or some Hutts. Go to like Null Hutta or something like that.
I'd kill to see a Hutt made in 2020 CG and mix of puppet sort of thing like they do now with Baby Yoda. That'd be amazing. Ellie, what's your choice of alien?
For me, it is 100% Hammerhead. I want more.
Yeah.
Ithorians, great call.
That would be killer. Oh man,
Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't think of that. Oh, it'd be good. Let's see. We've seen a bunch of Nikto. We've seen Mon Calamari. We've seen Corrin. I guess if I had to pick a different alien race than you guys said, I want to see some Gran. Those are the three-eyed Rees alien species. I'd like to see a bunch of those guys.
Surprised me with that one. I thought it was going to be the sultry Ishtib.
That was my second choice. And you know what?
Okay.
I do think there's a good chance we'll see some of those sultry Ishitibs in the future, because they already have those hands, so why not reuse them? All right, so we've been rambling on for 40 minutes. For Matty, for Ryan, for Ellie, and for myself, and everybody at Cut Star Wars, a custom 112 Galaxy Facebook group, we have spoken. May the Force be with you always.